New video shows just how intense a road rage incident got before a Kwik Trip in Fond du Lac was briefly locked down. Prosecutors say 52-year-old John Peters of Wapaka was behind the wheel of that F-150 Tuesday night, chasing a Tesla with a family inside from parking lot to parking lot. According to the witness, the truck followed the Tesla through a Target and Walmart lot, boxing it in, even backing into a group of shopping carts. And deputies say when they arrived and tried to pull Peters over, he kept following the Tesla until both vehicles turned into that Kwik Trip. The F-150 parking directly behind the Tesla to block it in. An officer drew his gun and took Peters into custody. The store was told not to let anyone out. Peters later told deputies he took down the Tesla's license plate and followed it because he wanted to talk to the driver. He is now charged with attempting to flee an officer and 4 counts of disorderly conduct. No court date is set, but if convicted on all counts, he faces up to 7 years in prison and about $14,000 in fines.